Chapter 11, My Love, My Nightmare. Back at the chicken coop, I was doing everything I could to get Jenna straightened out. I bought her a minivan and paid for her to go back to school to become a medical assistant. I also made sure she was clean enough to pass her drug test with Child Protective Services, clearing the way for her to get her little girl back from Grandma, who still had custody. Jenna's mom wasn't letting go of that kid without a fight, though. She loved her granddaughter and wanted to protect her, but she was also struggling mightily with demons of her own at the time. Grandma had been hooked on opiates ever since her 2-week stay in a hospital burn ward, but there was something else I believe she got addicted to during the time when she had custody of Sierra. The checks the state was cutting for her child care. Know what one of my first memories of Mom was? Jenna asked me the night before the custody hearing. I was 6 years old and my dad was driving me and my little sister around Big Bear looking for her because Mom hadn't come home the night before. He found her car parked in front of his friend's house and we all walked right into the bedroom and found them naked. My father left us right after that. We had this steep driveway with about 200 stairs going down it from the house, and I can still picture my mom standing on the deck and my dad walking down those stairs yelling at her, "I'm finished, I'm done with this," and Mom screaming, "Please don't go." I hated her for a long time after that. "That why you left her?" I asked. "I didn't leave because of Mom." Can't really blame him, I guess. I would have thrown him out too. "How old were you?" 14 maybe. I called my dad and asked him to come get me. We ended up driving to Mexico because Mom called the cops and told them I was kidnapped. I heard the rest of the story from Jenna's old man a few weeks later over beers and barbecue. If there was another side of the tracks in Via Vista, that's where Bill Thompson lived. The chief had a nice house out on the Spirit Circle where I'd occasionally go to prune trees as a favor. Afterward, we'd head to the backyard and spend hours drinking, eating burgers, and trying to figure out his mixed up kid, what some might call an exercise in futility. Bill told me that after gaining custody of his daughter, he tried hard to make up for time he had lost with her. He bought Jenna new clothes, paid her allowance, gave her just about anything she asked for. And because the little girl was a free spirit with the heart of a rebel, he allowed Jenna the freedom to find her own way. Unfortunately, her way was a total fucking disaster. Didn't start out that way though. But when she failed to make the cheer squad and was eliminated from the dance team, guess I wasn't preppy enough, she once told me. The girl latched on to the punk rock crowd instead. One night at a party, someone told her she could drink all night and never pass out if she smoked a little meth. Well, that was the beginning of a very long slide. Didn't help that Daddy's work schedule was a drug abuser's dream. Through the years, that girl has been detoxed 7 times, and 7 times she relapsed into drugs. I watched a friend suffer through the 10-day process, and it ain't pretty. About 6 hours after last use, the chills began. And because heroin plugs up the internal plumbing, once the intestines clear, it's bombs away. The mad shits are followed by nausea, wild temperature swings, and intense body aches from head to toe. Hell, Jenna claimed even her hair hurt going through detox. When she was 18 years old, she once tried detoxing on her own. Things got so bad that she asked her boyfriend, a Mexican drug dealer named Angel, to pack her into a moving box and seal it with tape. Jenna sat inside the box for 6 hours, curled up in a fetal position and shaking uncontrollably. After rehab failed, Bill Thompson couldn't take it anymore. Rather than continue to enable his daughter, he finally put his foot down and kicked her out of the house. That ripped my guts out. Bill lost track of Jenna after that. She vanished in the Southern California's underground drug scene. Before I entered the picture, he used to drive around the city in the dead of the night, wondering whether his child was still alive. "My daughter and I have this classic love-hate thing going on," Bill told me one afternoon. I used to have to remind myself there were 2 Jennas. There was the free spirit with a kind heart that I just loved and adored, and then there was this other person that I absolutely hated. "Yeah, I've met Satan's child a few times," I told him, "especially the first thing in the morning." The chief laughed. "When we lived together, I had a second phone line installed in the room, just so I wouldn't have to go in there. I used to call her and wake her up. It was safer that way." "I hear you, man." That's pretty common with addicts, said Bill. It's all part of protecting addictive behavior. Forces people to leave them alone so they can do whatever they want. Well, it sure works with me, I grinned. Bill got quiet and sipped his beer. After a long moment, he said, "Think I created a monster, George." "Nah, it's not your fault, man. You've done your best. It's up to Jenna to be herself." "Not sure she's capable," he replied. "I'm hoping maybe you can get through to her." I smiled and shook my head. "I do what I can, but nobody controls Jenna but Jenna." You know what? You know what's sad?" Bill said. "I really believe my little girl could do just about anything she wants in this life. She's that intelligent, but every time something good happens for her, she seems to sabotage it. It's like she doesn't think she deserves happiness. I just don't get it." With Jenna certified clean and sober by the state of California, regaining custody of Sierra from Grandma was just a formality. After the hearing, the judge awarded legal custody to the mother, and I had myself one more piece of Samsonite to add to my growing collection. Man, if I could buy a ticket on the Wayback Machine and travel back in time, I'd bend over and boot myself in the ass. I mean, the hell was I thinking? Here I was trying to infiltrate one of the most violent motorcycle gangs on the planet. And I was wet nursing a dope addict 22 years my junior and changing poopy diapers on the 2-year-old. While Jenna attended school, the job of minding to Sierra fell to me and old Joe. My buddy had kids of his own and basically knew what to do, but I didn't have a fucking clue. When it came to diapers, I was okay with Pete, but whenever it shot out the other end, my head went straight to the toilet. Got to the point where I couldn't pay the prostitute next door enough to come over and clean up the kids' messes. So now, it was Three's fucking company inside the shack at Via Vista, with old Joe stewing in the trailer outside, completely disgusted with the whole turn of events. My buddy loved little Sierra, but he was no fan of her mother, and Jenna wasn't thrilled with having him around either. I overheard the two of them arguing over me once. Although old Joe was so damn mellow, it's a bit like quarreling with the fence post. "I'm sticking by George no matter what," he was telling her. "We're partners." I'm the only partner George needs, Jenna. I'm the only partner George needs, Jenna fired back. "You need to move. Why don't you man up and go home to your kids and say, 'I'm sorry, I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict'?" "Well, Buttercup," Joe said slowly, "I ain't exactly proud of where I'm at, but I can tell you this much. I've been through George's girlfriends before you, and I'll be here when you're gone." That shut her up. So now we were a family. A somewhat dysfunctional family, to be sure, but a family nonetheless. The all too infrequent stretches when Jenna was clean and feeling good about having her daughter back were a pleasure. But 1 or 2 pills would drive her right back over the edge again, a reality that weighed heavily on both of us. "I know how I think of my mom and what her addiction has done to me," Jenna said to me as she was putting Sierra to bed one night. "And I think of how my little sister should look up to me but doesn't. I want to break that chain with my little girl. I don't want her doing to me what I did to my mom. I don't think I could bear it." "Hey, it's a choice," I said. "I chose to stop. So can you." She shook her head. "That might have worked for you, George, but that's not who I am. I'll always be an addict. If I touch heroin once, I'll be strung out for 3 days. If I do it once today, I'll do it twice tomorrow. I could get addicted to soap if I liked it enough." "That's a cop-out," I told her. She sat heavily on the couch beside me, looking much older than her 22 years. "I should be dead, you know. Join the club." "I'm serious," she said in earnest. "I've lost 5 really close friends. We all made it out of our teen years, but heroin killed them right after that. So why am I still here? I've done just as much shit as they did, maybe even more. I've tried overdosing a bunch of times and didn't care if I ever came back." "You tried to commit suicide?" She shook her head. "It wasn't like I wanted to die, but I really didn't care. If that's how it ended, you understand? I never said I better not do too much because it might kill me. I was always like, give me more, give me more."